بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Inshallah, today we will talk about Surah Al-Takwir and probably Surah Al-Infitar after as well. This is the second group of surahs in Juz' Amma. The first group with the first three, Naba, Nazi'at, and Abasa. And they talked about the three pillars of faith, meaning in order for you to have a faith, you need three things. You need to know the one who made the faith or the one who created, what their narrative is, what their requirements are, what they say. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does in Surah Al-Naba. It tells us exactly what the story is. And you need to know what your tools are going to be, how are you going to do this. And Surah Al-Nazi'at actually gives us two in one. It tells us not only how we're going to do it, but what's going to prevent us from doing it, which is the nafs. And then Surah Abasa gives us the code of conduct, the standard to which we hold ourselves in terms of ethics and morals. And that literally, if you just spend like a month just reading those three surahs, understanding these three concepts, you end up with a very profound understanding of what it means to be Muslim, or what it means to be someone of faith, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's talking about the three and it doesn't, like, the beauty of it, it doesn't go into the nitty-gritty of rituals and movements, and it kind of leaves that. You can look into that later, but make sure that the basic concepts are clear. The second group of surahs in Juz' Amma is from Surah Al-Takwir to Surah Al-Buruj. Now this group is going to talk about choices. It's going to talk about the fact that you have freedom of choice. It's going to look at your freedom of choice from a number of different angles. Each surah, so Al-Takwir, Al-Infitar, Al-Mutaffifin, Al-Shiqaq, and Al-Buruj, all five, each one of them, these five surahs, talk about your choice, your just ability to make a decision from a different angle. And they're very profound and very important. I find them to be extremely effective, or they have extreme impact on us as Muslims in terms of understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to do and what He's offered us. So we start with the first surah within this group, Surah Al-Takwir, that talks about the sanctity of your freedom of choice. Your freedom of choice is sacred, it's holy. It's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for you to have. No other creature has it but you. You're the only living thing. The human being is the only living thing that has the ability to choose from options that they can use, using a cognitive ability to actually look at different choices. Every other creation, every other mammal, every other living thing is just living based on instincts. And really, when you talk about having different options or choices, it doesn't really exist for them. They don't really have metacognition. They don't have the ability to look up to the sky and wonder and stare and ask questions and why we are here and what purpose do we serve. And they don't have the ability to do that. That's why the ecosystem worked for hundreds and thousands of years, and you have these amazing biological and animal-based phenomena that occur every year. The salmon run, and if you watch these things, they're subhanallah, they're beautiful. How everything just works and like clockwork. Everything just works in the exact same way. The system continues to go for thousands of years, never changed. Every makhluk, every creation knows exactly what to do, when to do, where to go. Everything is very clear. And then we come around and we start messing with things because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to actually make differences and change things. But the important part of all of that for us Islamically is that it is sacred. It is a holy right. It's a holy offering from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Surah Al-Takwir, I'll explain to you in a moment how it kind of breaks that down very beautifully. So the surah begins with those verses that most people who memorize the surah struggle with. The first 14, إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ وإذا العشار عطلت وإذا الوحوش حشرت وإذا البحار سجرت وإذا النفوس زوجت وإذا الموءودة سئلت بأي ذنب قتلت وإذا الصحف نشرت وإذا السماء كشطت وإذا الجحيم سعرت وإذا الجنة أزلفت علمت نفس ما أحضرت. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you when, these are not oaths, He's saying when this happens and when this happens. And basically subhanahu wa ta'ala points out to us a lot of the universal incidents or events that will occur on Yawm al-Qiyamah. He points them out when the sun is wrapped up and when the stars are turned off. The actual the energy that exists within them is taken away, and the mountains are moved, and the pregnant animals are left unattended, and all of the beasts and all of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are gathered all together. And when the oceans are on fire, like water burns on Yawm al-Qiyamah, water is burning. And when all the human race is brought together, and when the slates are distributed, and when the sky is scraped, and when Jahannam is kindled, and when the Jannah is open, this is what he's talking about, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the description of what's happening that day is breathtaking, and it's overwhelming. It's very scary because, you know why? Because we don't have a say in it. We have no choice about it. Subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Takwir is going to point out to us all of these events, all these things that we have no choice in. Building up to that last verse in the surah to tell you, a piece of information that we need to carry with us for the rest of our lives. But all of these events that are occurring as the sun and the stars and the mountains and the sky itself and the beasts and everything is happening. We have no way to stop it. We have no effect on it. We have no choice in regarding whether it happens or not. We can't really do anything about it besides just observe. And then when we're commanded to move, we move. We lose our choice. I mean, right now you have the ability to affect the environment with the choices you make and the behaviors that you decide to adopt within your life. But Yawm al-Qiyamah, the environmental changes that occur are way beyond your ability to have an impact on. They just happen. And a lot of what the Quran talks about is a reminder that, look, you have a choice now, you have impact now. Use it, because soon you won't. Soon and it hurts when it happens. I mean, it's painful for us when we realize that we don't have impact. We don't have the ability to affect anything anymore. That's been taken away from us. عَلِمَتْ نَفْسٌ مَا أَحْضَرَتْ. I left one out. I'm not sure if you noticed that I left one out. I'll come back to it in a moment. عَلِمَتْ نَفْسٌ مَا أَحْضَرَتْ. Every nafs, every soul knows what it's bringing that day. What it packed and what's going to bring with it on the day of judgment. He continues subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَفَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالْخُنَّسِ الْجَوَارِ الْكُنَّسِ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا عَسْعَسَ وَالصُّبْحِ إِذَا تَنَفَّسَ. He swears subhanahu wa ta'ala by the running stars as they fill the sky. He takes an oath subhanahu wa ta'ala by the night as it slowly goes away, and as the morning comes and takes a breath. It's a very descriptive oath that he's taking subhanahu wa ta'ala with extreme beauty. He says, إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلُ رَسُولٍ كَرِيمٍ ذِي قُوَّةٍ عند ذي العرش مكين مطاع ثم أمين وما صاحبكم بمجنون ولقد رآه بالأفق المبين وما هو على الغيب بضنين وما هو بقول شيطان رجيم. So he takes his oath subhanahu wa ta'ala of the stars fill the sky and that are running, circulating the galaxy. The night as it slowly goes away, it just slowly kind of disappears, and that first morning breath slowly appears. He says, indeed, the words that the Prophet ﷺ is conveying to you are the words of a great messenger. It's not talking about him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who knows who's being talked about here? Yeah, Jibreel alayhi salam. Jibreel is the Rasul Kareem that's being talked about here in these verses. Indeed, what the Prophet ﷺ is saying are the teachings of Jibreel, this noble messenger, ذي قوة, who has strength, عند ذي العرش, in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the king of the throne. Makeen, he has status as well. Muta'in, he is obeyed. Thamma ameen. It's not thumma. Muta'in thamma, meaning and in his realm, where he is obeyed. Ameen, he is trustworthy. وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونَ. صاحبكم, meaning the man that's speaking to you, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is not insane. He is not mad. وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ بِالْأُفُقِ الْمُبِينِ. Indeed, he saw him in that very clear horizon. He's talking about that first day when the Prophet ﷺ saw Jibreel in Ghar Hira. وَمَا هُوَ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ بِضَنِينَ. And the Prophet ﷺ does not withhold any of the ghaib. He does not lie and hold back anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him from that which you do not know. وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. What you're reading is not the word of a devil. Why does he talk about Jibreel alayhi salam here? Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you understood where this mihwar is going, where this group of surahs are going, talking about the freedom of choice. And Surah Al-Takwir talking about the sanctity of it. The first 14 verses talked about all that we can't control. Things are going to happen that we have no choice in at all, just counting them one after the other. And then he talks about Jibreel. What is the thing that we know about Jibreel? He is the most revered creature in the realm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we do not understand. But what do we know about him regarding that topic? Does he have choice? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Jibreel alayhi salam is not mukhayyar. He does not have options to choose from in terms of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The highest, most revered, most powerful, with the highest status, the most obeyed, the most trustworthy creature, that's what those verses are explaining and describing him as, does not actually have choice. He doesn't choose. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing out another creature that does not choose, Jibreel alayhi salam. And then he points to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and he talks about him, and then he describes him regarding something that he's not, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that also he wouldn't have a choice in if he had. A liar, that's a choice. A wizard, that's a choice. A poet, that's a choice. All these are choices. Madness or insanity, that's not a choice. I don't choose if I'm insane or if I'm sane. That's not something I can choose. It's a condition that you may have or you don't. وَمَا صَاحِبُكُمْ بِمَجْنُونَ. And stop calling him something that he is not, and stop trying to act as if he has no choice in what he's doing, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He does have a choice. He is conveying the message, and that is willfully. He is conveying it willfully. That's his choice, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The surah ends when it says, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ. So where are you going to go? Where are you running away from? Where are you going to go? I just explained to you what's going to happen Yawm al-Qiyamah. Can you run away from the sun being wrapped into nothing, and the stars being turned off, and the sky being scraped, and the mountains being moved, and the oceans burning? Can you run away from this? You have the ability to. Are you strong enough? Do you think you have a choice? You can't. You can't go. Where are you going to go? فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. What you're being presented with is just merely a reminder for all of humanity. لِمَنْ شَاءَ مِنْكُمْ أَنْ يَسْتَقِيمَ. For those of you who have the will or have the intention to walk the straight path. And then subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a monumental verse at the end of Surah Al-Takwir. After just talking about one aspect of existence after the other that we don't have control over, that we don't have choice regarding at all. But then he points out subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end the sanctity of what you own right now. Where he says, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Unfortunately, this ayah has always been misunderstood and been used to actually sometimes defend the opposite of what I'm going to explain to you in a moment. Where it's looked at, oh, you only will if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, that means I don't. No. That's not what the ayah is saying at all. What the ayah is saying is that the only reason that you have a will, that you have a choice, that you have the ability to make decisions, is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed for you to do that. He willed for you to have a will. That is His will. He intended for you to have choices. He decided that you will have the ability to make decisions. That's His decision, subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you will be able to decide. So you take your ability to make decisions, to have choices. You take that ability directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no middleman. There is no median. This is a gift that you are taking directly from God. Here, you get to choose. You get to look at an abundance of options, and you get to do whatever you want. You get to hear someone tell you, قَالَ اللَّهُ كَذَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands this or commands that, and you get to choose whether you're going to say yes or you're going to say no. No other creature can. That's why a lot of them don't understand us. A lot of them, a lot of the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Yawm al-Qiyamah, wonder, what is with this human? أكل رزقك وعبد غيرك in one of the athar. He eats your provision and then he goes and he worships someone else. What is this creature that seems to have this audacity to actually disobey God? No other creature can do it. But that's the special gift that you and I were offered. It's sacred. It's holy. The fact that you can choose, you can make choices, you can make decisions. This is taken directly from God Himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, go ahead, make a choice. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Something, the Lord of everything has willed you to have your own independent free will, and you have it. But after He showed you a full surah of events that aren't going to happen. Now I left out a part of those events I'm going to go back to now that are important. After He says, وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ سُجِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ, He says subhanahu wa ta'ala, inserts it in the middle. Something that doesn't really fit with everything else that's happening, or everything else around are huge movements of creations, all the beasts and all the human beings being gathered in the sky, and the suhuf and jahim and jannah, things that are huge, that are beyond our ability to actually. But then He inserts in the middle of it, and He says, وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. And if you grew up listening to Abdul Basit, reciting it and just building up to that verse and stopping at it, you knew that there always had like a sentimental meaning for someone who loves this surah. Hearing him stop there at the Al-Maw'uda is the infant female child that was buried alive in infancy. Al-Maw'uda. So while all this is happening, while the sun is being destroyed and the stars are being turned off and the sky is being scraped and the oceans are burning and Jahim is being kindled and Jannah is being opened and we're all being gathered and we're given our slates, all these huge events are happening, somewhere in the middle of all that, there's going to be this question that's going to be asked. The Maw'uda, all of those infant children that were buried alive, all these female infant little girls that were killed, they'll be called upon Yawm al-Qiyamah. They'll be asked, بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلْتِ. How, based on what sin did you commit to be murdered so ruthlessly? What sin did you commit? What mistake did you make? And of course it's a rhetorical question because it's an infant. It made no mistake. It made no mistake at all. It didn't do anything wrong, but it was killed anyway. So the question isn't for the child, I don't think, because the child is an infant and they don't even have the ability to answer probably, or if they do, they were only alive for a few minutes, so it's going to be just a very direct nothing, and that's the end of it. There's really nothing else to. But maybe the question wasn't for that creature, that infant that had no choice in the matter. Maybe the question was for those who did have a choice in the matter. Maybe the question was for those who watched and were there and committed this or allowed this to happen. Maybe this is not just referring to the horrible pre-Islamic Jahili practice of people burying their children or burying their daughters because of fear of poverty. Maybe it's also referring to what we allow happen today when dictatorships and bomb homes and bury children under the rubble of their own houses. Maybe that's a part of this as well. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe not much has changed. It's just a different flavor and different form. We love to blame others for the mistakes that happened a long time ago. Yeah, they were barbarians. They buried their own children. Really? You really think that they killed more children than our generation did? Statistically, you think that they killed more children than our generation allowed to die? Not even close. They can't hold a candle to us. They can't hold a candle to the number of children we've allowed to be buried under the rubble of their own homes and to be killed brutally and ruthlessly through wars and through careless, neglectful warfare and regimes that just don't have any respect to human life whatsoever, and hatred and racism. You think they killed more? They didn't. And Yawm al-Qiyamah, the question will stand. And all those children that were killed with no sin of their own, they made no choice that would cause them to be treated this way. They'll be asked, why were you killed? And there will be no answer from them because they didn't do anything, but the answer will have to be from us. Why were they killed? What choice did they make that allowed them to be treated that way? Or maybe the question is, what choice did you make that allowed that to happen? وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. And then he continues, وَإِذَا الصُّحُفُ نُشِرَتْ. It's like just inserted in the middle, just something to think about. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us in Surah Al-Takwir all these things that have no choice. The events of Yawm al-Qiyamah, the murder of these infant children, and Jibreel alayhi salam, and all of his glory, all of his grace alayhi salam has no choice at all. But then you do. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. No one can take away your freedom of choice. No one can. No one has the ability to take that away from you. No one has the right, because it's sacred, because it's holy, because it was granted to you by God Himself. And this is something that you carry with you. Regardless of how poor you are or how difficult your life was or where you are in what status you carry, doesn't matter. Remember that you were granted something by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. You were gifted. Here's the amana. Inna aradna al-amanata ala samawati wal-ardi wal-jibal. No other creature wanted this. No other creature wanted the option of having a choice, because the option of having a choice means you may make the wrong one, which means you disobeyed God himself, which is a big problem. Or at least that's how you should see it, as a big problem, because it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you were given that choice. He sees it as holy. He sees it as sacred. And we need to see it that way as well. Every choice that you make, you are exercising your holy right, your sacred opportunity and offering from God to do what you want. No one else can do that but you. Respect what you were given. Treat that which you were given with respect. Surah Al-Infitar right after it. So every surah is going to be talking about an element of this freedom that we have, this free will that we possess, and our ability to make these choices. So Al-Takwir just tells you, it is yours, it is sacred, it is holy, it is granted to you by God himself. Know that. Nothing else does it. Yawm al-Qiyamah, you'll know, you'll learn. Yawm al-Qiyamah, you'll see, because there's no choice anymore. It hurts, by the way, when your freedom is, what's the worst punishment? When your freedom is taken away. That's why we made up jails. Because it hurts when you don't have freedom. When you can't make your choices, you can't live your life the way you want to live it, it hurts. It's a pain that is psychological, that is moral, that it basically stabbing the soul. When the moment your freedom is taken away, you struggle with it because that's all you've got. That's really all you treasure in this world, that you can still do whatever you want to do. And the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Arab for the final message, all these other nations were given prophets, and it could have come to any nation really. The reason he chose them, at the time they were free. At the time when they were free, an Arab person didn't care. He had his horse and he had his sword. He didn't care. He did whatever he wanted. You couldn't hold him down. There was no laws that controlled him. He was nothing dictated. If you really tried to control, then okay, it's a duel. He gets on his worst case scenario, he drives into the desert and you can go do what you want. And that freedom, that sanctity of freedom, they had it, so they understood. So they understood what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was offering. Here, this is yours. This is something that I've chosen for you to have. I willed you to have this. I willed you to have free will. Surah Al-Infitar talks about the fact that there's accountability to it, because we need to have the elements of free will. So, okay, fine. I can choose whatever I want, Ya Rabb. I understand that. You gave me an infinite number of options that I can choose from. Great. But what does that mean? So now he starts to explain subhanahu wa ta'ala in some detail. Each surah will explain an element of what that means. The first one, إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انْفَطَرَتْ وَإِذَا الْكَوَاكِبُ انْتَثَرَتْ وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ فُجِّرَتْ وَإِذَا الْقُبُورُ بُعْثِرَتْ عَلِمَتْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ وَأَخَّرَتْ. When the sky shatters, and when the stars are scattered, and when the oceans explode, and when the graves are turned over, and everyone inside comes out again. Again, stuff you don't choose. This is all going to happen. It's a matter of just when you witness them. On that day, every nafs, every soul knows what it brought forward, what it didn't, what pushed it forward, what pushed it backwards, what it did, what it didn't do. And then there's a calling. Ya ayyuhal insan, O human being. Tell me, ما غرك بربك الكريم? What deceived you regarding your most generous, most noble Lord? What is it that deceived you? Why are you coming Yawm al-Qiyamah with all of this? Why are you coming with all of this disobedience and all of these masa'ib, and all of these horrible choices that were made? What was it that deceived you? That made you think it was okay to do this? It's a question. And some scholars say, غَرَّنَا كَرَمُكَ. You're deceived with your generosity. جل جلال الله. الذي خلقك فسواك فعدلك في أي صورة ما شاء ركبك. The one who created you, the one who shaped you, the one who gave you, who balanced you out. He could have created you في أي صورة. He could have created you in any form and shape. The fact that you look the way that you look and you're balanced out is his choice, subhanahu wa ta'ala. You could have come out looking very different, but this is how you were shaped and given purpose, and it's all set up for you. Kalla. It's not an issue of being deceived. No. The surah explains it's not an issue of you being deceived. Kalla. No. But what's the issue? بَلْ تُكَذِّبُونَ بِالدِّينِ. The actual problem is that you disbelieve, you refuse to believe, even though that you have good reason to believe it. They're refusing to believe bid-deen. Now what does deen mean here? It's not religion. In Arabic, كَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانُ, correct? The way you hold people accountable, you'll be held accountable. The word deen means accountability in its essence. The essence of the word itself it is later used to describe a religion or a law. It describes a law because laws help hold people accountable. And it describes a religion because the religion are a set of rules that you hold yourself accountable to. That's the origin of the word deen. Danahu ay, yani he convicted this person, meaning this person is going to be held accountable. And that's the meaning of the word deen, the actual root of the linguistic root of it. So he's saying, subhanahu wa ta'ala, no, the problem wasn't that you were deceived in the generosity and nobility of your Lord, or that you were too busy to doing something else, or that you were eluded by something. No. The problem is, tukadhibuna bid-deen, you refuse, you don't want to believe in accountability. You just don't want to believe. It's hard. No one wants to. Who wants to be held accountable for anything? For anything. Forget about Yawm al-Qiyamah, being held accountable for your life. Who wants to be held accountable for anything at all? No one likes that. No one likes going to school and university because there is accountability at the end. If you fail, you're going to be held accountable by the body that's testing you and by your parents. It's a problem. You go to work, if you don't do your job, you're held accountable. No one likes being held accountable. We seek out situations and environments and scenarios where we don't have to be accountable to anybody. We try. As human beings, we continue to search for ways not to be held accountable. And we fail, obviously, because it's almost impossible. There's always going to be accountability. So we don't want it. So when you're told, it's not just about you're going to be accountability to your peers, or accountability to your family, or accountability to a body of education, or the job that you work at. It's accountability to everything that you ever did. Every choice you ever made. Every choice, regardless of where you made it, or when you made it, or how you made it. Every choice is going to be brought back, and there's going to be accountability for it. Going to be asked why? Why? Because because if you just understood what I talked about in Surah Al-Takwir, it's a sacred offering. It's a holy right. No other creation can do it. Do you? The problem, this is why I think this group of surahs in Juz' Am is so important. Because I feel we have lessened, we have decreased amongst ourselves in our own hearts the importance of making decisions, or the sanctity of making decisions. We are a generation, at least I am, maybe you had a different experience. At least I'm a part of a generation that was told that you don't really have control over anything. And just, go with the flow, do what people are doing, just, keep your head down, don't make any noise, don't cause any trouble, just get through life. Really, your parents choose everything for you. They choose your profession, they choose your spouse, they choose your house, they choose that. So you grow up feeling, whatever, it's whatever I was given. But that's not the case. I remember giving this dars once, and I remember I was done at LMM maybe like 4 years ago or something. I was doing it in English. I did it in Arabic in a different setting, but I gave it in English, and I was talking about the importance of freedom of choice, and wallahi, a father got up, took his son and left. So I saw it. I didn't say anything, and I waited until the halaqah afterwards, and I asked him, was something, he said, no, I didn't want my kid to hear all this that you're saying. It's like, I don't want him to hear that fact that, no, your choice and freedom of choice, and you have to choose. We still believe that. We still believe deep down inside that we have to control as many people around us as possible. We have to control the narrative, control behavior. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't get the right to do that. You're not supposed to. Raise your kids and influence and inspire and teach and educate and aid and support. All these words are great, but you don't get to control, because they have a sacred right to make choices as they go through lives. Your job is to make sure that they're doing it with the greatest amount of support and education and aid that they need so they can make the right choices. But it's their choice. Who's going to be held accountable for this choice? They are. You're going to be held accountable for your choices. And if you choose to control someone that God said they can choose on their own, I don't know exactly what you're doing. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they can choose freely, and you're saying, no, they're going to do exactly what I say. What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. That's actually a very dangerous thing to be saying, a dangerous thought to have. And I think it's hard to let go. It's hard to say, yes, let people, it's hard, it's difficult. We want to hold on, we want to control. But the moment you learn that you're not here to control, you're here to make choices for yourself, to save yourself, because you're going to be held accountable Yawm al-Qiyamah, and help others do the same, it makes a big difference. وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ لَحَافِظِينَ كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Everything is known, what you're doing is being recorded, which we talked about in a moment in Surah Al-Mutaffifin. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا يَوْمُ الدِّينِ. What do you know about the day of accountability? ثُمَّ مَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا يَوْمُ الدِّينِ. And I ask you again, what do you know of the day of accountability? When you're held accountable for every choice that you made. يَوْمَ لَا تَمْلِكُ نَفْسٌ لِنَفْسٍ شَيْئًا. On that day, no one owns anything. No one controls anything. Al-mulk here, tamliku, means control, not ownership. He's always owned everything. On that day, no one controls anything. وَالْأَمْرُ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلَّهِ. And on that day, everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All comes back to Him. Every aspect of it. The freedom of choice that you had, that He'll take away from us Yawm al-Qiyamah, and it will hurt when Yawm al-Qiyamah we can't choose anymore. You can't do good deeds and then have them account. No, it's all gone, so that hurts. And then what hurts even more is that we're going to be held accountable for all of it. I'll end with that and we'll continue inshallah tomorrow. Subhanakallah bihamdik, shanu la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala